my colleagues have been working very hard in the affected area to help the victims, providing blankets, face masks, diapers, and all sorts of things they need, and it's all very sad. I think now more questions are being raised whether we should continue to allow bamboo scaffoldings to be used for such massive operations, It has been pointed out before that bamboo scaffolding should only be used for smaller scale renovation, not for renovation of such a large scale project encompassing 8 blocks of housing estates. And also, actually, Wang Fuk Court in Tai Po is not new to controversy. There have been arguments between the owners about awarding of the contracts, renovation contracts, which cost Hong Kong dollar 350 million, which is above average, And that's why the former owners corporation were voted out last September and replaced by a new owners corporation with the responsibility to supervise the works. But actually, all these owners, they are unpaid volunteers, They might have been affected themselves. So the question is, with such a multi-story building management, can you really rely on owners working as unpaid volunteers to supervise the works? So I think the government need to do more to help the residents. And as your people reported, Labour Department already found some of the materials were not compliant with government standards. And it is really sad that the bamboo scaffolding coupled with the non-fire retardant mesh netting and the dry weather and the windy weather caused the fire to spread so quickly and led to such colossal loss of life and property. It's really sad.
Yeah, we should reiterate as well that the investigations into the construction company that you mentioned are ongoing, and obviously we haven't got to the exact bottom of what went wrong, and also this question over which materials were used and whether they were contravening safety standards. But Regina, I mean, you are someone, as a former Secretary for Security, have been in this government position before that Chris Tung now finds himself in today. Do you think that there needs to be any government officials that are also held accountable for what's happened?
I think, again, it's premature to pass judgment on any officials or even on any companies involved. But I think government should take a good look at our existing legislation, whether there are gaps in the requirements about fire retardant materials, not only for construction but also for smaller scale renovations, and to step up the enforcement. I think this should be part of the overall review and investigation to be conducted by government.
What about potential changes to things like the awarding of contracts, for example? Is that something that you think LegCo should be looking at as well? And should we expect changes there?
There have always been complaints about awarding of contracts because there's a lot of competition for these lucrative works, So the Urban Renewal Authority already providing a service to the owners. They can contract the URA and they will help you assess the value of the contract when you do the tendering. I think this has been done in many instances, but still it's a hot area of contention between owners and between competitors for the jobs.
The Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee visited the site yesterday, and he did announce that $10,000 Hong Kong dollars, that's around $1,300 US, will be handed out to each family that's been affected. Do you think that's sufficient?
There's just immediate relief, clearly insufficient. These people have lost their homes and properties, and some of them will move to a hotel soon. But currently, the government is offering accommodation in transitional housing, temporary housing in faraway areas, far away from their homes. So they have a lot of adjustment to do, whether for work or for schooling for the children. So the government set up a fund, fundraising. The government contributed 300 million Hong Kong dollars toward a fund for long-term relief for the Wang Fuk Court residents. And I think the latest is we already received 800 million Hong Kong dollars donations from the community. I think more money will be flooding in, including from American corporations and the American Chamber, for which we are grateful.
Yeah, we've seen really an outpouring of support in kind as well, to your point there. You're very familiar with how the system works in Hong Kong. We've heard a lot of, let's call it, strong language from the chief executive overnight, a further review of one issue is the scaffolding, of course. Are there specific changes that you think we should expect, and when do you think those changes are?
I always think that the multi-story building management is a big problem. The government has already updated the law, but the fact remains, if you rely on owners, like myself, I'm an owner. In fact, in many buildings, nobody wants to sit on the owner's corporation. It's a thankless job, and they are unpaid volunteers, and they really need more help from government, expert advice as well as help in mediation in case of disputes, and more help from ICAC to deal with possible corruption. I think the ICAC ought to get more deeply involved, because with these large-scale housing projects, a lot of money is involved in each renovation project.
How, and I think to Bill's point, investigations are still ongoing, but how cognizant is LegCo over potential loopholes that could allow for corruption to result in contracts being far beyond the monetary value? And do you think government regulation to aid owners associations could address that issue?
Many LegCo members who have done district work for a long time are well aware of these building management problems and the squabbles between residents. But the awarding of contracts, after all, have to be decided by the owner's corporation.
That's right.
And from time to time, in more than one case, there have been arguments between different owners. And this is something maybe the Home Affairs Bureau need to step in a bit more.
In terms of, just to address also the firefighting ability, and anyone who has visited Hong Kong, who's seen Hong Kong on television or in other media, we live in skyscrapers all around, and one can't help but think, if and when something like what happened this week happens, the ability for firefighters to be able to address not just a skyscraper on fire, but several at that. Does technology have a role in being able to equip the firefighters to be able to address this if and when it happens, and hopefully never again?
Well, I think there are arrangements between Hong Kong and other cities in the Greater Bay Area to share the resources and the technology. And I know Guangzhou and Shenzhen are ready to help, but the space is so limited. Hong Kong is so congested. Very large appliances would have difficulty maneuvering around the buildings, And I noticed that our compatriots on the Chinese mainland have queried why we have not used drones,
Yes.
And I understand that 8 drones have been loaned to us, but they are more for monitoring the heat level rather than for spraying water. And there must be good technical reasons for that, But you see, Hong Kong is so crowded. These 8 blocks are very close to each other, and the units are small, and the layout is complex. And I heard from the deputy fire chief that his firemen actually had to really climb floor by floor, fight their way up to break into each home to save the residents. And they've done an amazing job. All of them owe a big tribute to the firemen for their big sacrifice, particularly to the family of the one, Mr. Ho, who lost his life.
Yeah, the most densely populated city in the world. We're days away now, though, from the heavily promoted legislative elections.
Yes.
Do you think that there's case for those to be postponed? Is that the appropriate response, do you think?
I think there are legal limitations, both from local law and the basic law. I'm sure it's under consideration by the government, and we are waiting to hear from the government. Currently, all political parties have suspended our campaigning activities, and our people are on the ground to help the victims.